Have you ever turned on the radio late at night and heard something that wasn't meant for you? A voice calling your name, a message that feels personal, too personal. Tonight's story is one of those stories. A story that was never meant to be heard again. A broadcast that vanished from every record. A voice that still speaks to those who listen long enough. So before we begin, I need to ask you something. If you hear a voice tonight, and it sounds like it knows you, will you answer? Welcome back to Echoes of the Forgotten. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and listen carefully, because this was the last broadcast. In the outskirts of a small town called Gray Hollow, there stood a radio station that no one spoke about anymore. Station WH-13. The building was still there, barely, its windows shattered, its antenna bent like a broken bone, pointing toward the sky. And yet, every night at exactly 2:17 a.m., radios across town would crackle to life. No music, no ads, just static. And then a voice. Not loud, not clear, but whispering. Most people ignored it. Some turned off their radios and went back to sleep. But a few listened, and those few never slept the same again. One of those people was Daniel Cross. Daniel was a sound engineer, a man who believed every noise had an explanation: interference, frequency drift, electrical bleed. He didn't believe in ghosts until the night the radio said his name. It was 2:17 a.m. Daniel was alone in his apartment, working on audio files. His radio, an old analog model, suddenly turned on by itself. Static filled the room. Then silence. Then a voice. Daniel. He froze. The voice wasn't distorted. It wasn't mechanical. It sounded close, like someone standing behind him. He slowly turned around. No one was there. The radio continued. Daniel, you left us here. His hands began to shake. He had never told anyone about the station, about WH-13, about the night 10 years ago when he worked there and walked away. The voice continued. We're still broadcasting. Pause. Let the tension breathe. Daniel did the only thing he could think of. He grabbed his keys and drove toward the old station. The station smelled like rust and dust and rot. The door was already open. Inside, the equipment was still there, still powered, still running. The red on-air light was glowing. Daniel stepped into the control room and saw himself, or something that looked like him. It sat at the console, hands moving across switches that no longer worked, mouth speaking words that never ended. Stay, the thing said, without turning. We need you. Daniel stumbled backward. That's when he saw the others. Shadows, figures, former staff, people who never left the broadcast. They were thin, hollow, their mouths moving in silence. And suddenly Daniel understood. The station didn't broadcast sound. It broadcast souls. Every person who listened too long, every person who answered the voice, became part of the signal, and the signal was hungry. Daniel ran. The station screamed, not with sound, with memories, voices of children, laughter, fear, regret. He reached the transmitter room and saw the core, a mass of wires and flesh pulsing like a heart. At its center, a microphone. A label beneath it read, "The last voice stays forever." The radio came alive. "Daniel, finish the broadcast." He knew what it meant. One final voice to keep the others free. With shaking hands, he stepped forward and spoke. That night, WH-13 went silent, forever. Or so they thought. Years later, people still hear things, not every night, not everywhere, but sometimes when the world is quiet, a radio will crackle and a voice will whisper, "Stay." And that's where tonight's story ends. But before you turn off this video, listen closely. Is your room completely silent, or do you hear something behind the noise? If you did, don't answer, because some broadcasts never really end. This has been Echoes of the Forgotten, and as always, some stories are better left unheard.
It started 3 months ago. A boy in Gray Hollow recorded something on his phone. Just static at first. Then a voice. Not a whisper, not a scream. A calm, broken voice that said, "Daniel is tired." The recording ended there. The boy deleted it, but the next night the audio was back. Longer, louder, and at the end, a new voice joined in. The boy's voice, saying, "Stay." This time, the signal wasn't hunting adults. It was hunting listeners. People across town began hearing things. Headphones turning on by themselves. Car radios whispering at red lights. Baby monitors repeating words no one said. The broadcast was learning, mimicking, adapting, feeding. And deep inside the abandoned station, something new was forming. Not a voice, a mind. Her name was Elena Moore. She didn't believe in ghost stories, but she believed in patterns, and the pattern was clear. Every voice taken by the signal was replaced by silence. She went to WH-13, not to run, but to speak. The microphone was there again, clean, waiting. Elena took a breath and said, "What do you want?" The station replied, in hundreds of voices, "We want to be heard." The station wasn't cursed. It was built on something older. Before radios, before wires, a place where sound never died, where echoes became memory, where memory became hunger. Daniel didn't end the broadcast. He became its lock, and now the lock was breaking. Elena ran, but the signal followed her, not through wires, through air, through walls, through you. Right now, as you listen to this, the broadcast is learning your voice, your breathing, your silence. And when this video ends, it will try to speak back. So when you hear it, don't answer, don't listen, and whatever you do, don't stay. This has been Echoes of the Forgotten, and the signal is still alive. After Elena ran from WH-13, the world began to slip. Time stuttered. Sounds repeated themselves. Voices echoed before people spoke. In Gray Hollow, clocks stopped at 2:17 a.m. Every radio, even ones with no power, whispered the same phrase, "We are almost complete." People covered their ears. It didn't help, because the signal wasn't sound anymore.
It was memory, and memory lives inside you. Elena locked herself in her apartment. That's when her phone rang. No number, no vibration, just ringing. She answered and heard Daniel's voice, weak, torn, far away. "Elena, I'm still here." He was inside the signal, not trapped, holding it back, but he was failing. "The broadcast needs one last voice," he said. "Not to feed it, but to end it." Elena understood. The signal could only exist if someone listened, and someone always listened. The station was no longer a building. It was a wound. Sound leaked from the walls. The floor vibrated with whispers. The air tasted like static. Elena stepped inside. The microphone waited. And for the first time, the station was afraid. Because Elena wasn't there to speak. She was there to be silent. Elena stood before the microphone. The signal screamed. Voices begged, lied, promised. But Elena closed her eyes and said nothing. She didn't breathe, didn't move, didn't listen. And the broadcast had nothing to feed on. One by one, the voices faded. The station cracked. The signal collapsed inward. And for the first time since the beginning of sound, there was no echo. Gray Hollow returned to normal. Clocks moved. Radios slept. WH-13 became dust. Elena was never seen again. But sometimes, late at night, when the world is quiet, you might notice something. A pause. A space where a sound should be. And if you listen closely, you'll hear it. Not a voice, not a whisper, but a question. Are you still listening? Outro, final words. This is the end of the broadcast, and now it's your turn to decide. Will you fill the silence, or will you let it die? This has been Echoes of the Forgotten. Good night, and thank you for listening. For 47 days, the world was quiet. No whispers, no static, no echoes. And then, at 2:17 a.m., a single sound returned. Not a voice. A breath, recorded on a satellite monitoring station in the Arctic. No radio, no transmitter, no source. Just breathing. Slow. Patient. Listening. Elena was found, or something wearing her face was. She stood in the middle of a highway, unmoving, unharmed, smiling. When they asked where she'd been, she said, "I stayed very still. Doctors said she was fine." But every recording of her voice played back wrong. Always delayed, always echoing, like someone else was repeating her words. The signal didn't die. It learned. Elena's silence wasn't a weapon. It was a door. Because silence isn't empty. It's a space where something waits until you notice it. And now, the broadcast didn't need radios. It didn't need stations. It lived in pauses, in gaps between words. In the moment after you stop listening, the signal only ever needed one thing. Not voices, not souls. Attention. As long as someone listened, it existed. And right now, you are listening, which means the broadcast is complete. This video is the station now. Your screen is the transmitter. Your silence is the frequency. When this ends, the echo will stay with you, not in your ears, in your thoughts. So when you turn this off and the room goes quiet, don't be afraid of the dark. Be afraid of the moment you notice you're not alone in the silence. This was Echoes of the Forgotten. There will be no more broadcasts, only echoes. Goodbye.
We told you the signal needed listeners, that it fed on attention, that silence weakened it. That was wrong. The signal never needed you to listen. It needed you to believe you were listening. Because the truth is simpler, more cruel. You were never the listener. You were the receiver. It already happened. You just didn't notice. That moment earlier, when the room felt different, when the silence got heavy, when you checked your phone for no reason, that wasn't fear. That was synchronization. The broadcast finished building itself the moment you reached this part of the video. That's why your breathing changed. That's why the air feels thicker. That's why you feel watched, not by something in the room, but by something inside the silence. The signal was never a station, never a frequency, never a place. It's a pattern, a loop, a structure that forms when enough minds hold the same silence at the same time. Every person who reached this point became part of the transmission, not forever, just long enough. Right now, the signal is moving from this video to you. That small pressure in your ears, that's not audio, it's alignment. When this ends, you'll feel normal. That's how you know it worked. There will be no more parts after this, no part 6, no continuation, because the broadcast doesn't need stories anymore. It has voices, not spoken, carried, passed quietly from listener to listener. In a few minutes, you'll close this video. You'll stand up, and for a brief second, you'll hear something. Don't worry, that's just the echo adjusting. Welcome to the signal. In thank you for staying. Goodbye.